Over the years, I've tried to help a lot of people get into tech, and some of them have been successful and some have not. But right on the front of that effort, I have a survey. And in the survey is a question about how many applications that you have applied, filled out, and completed. And some of the answers are incredible. Some people say they've done 500 applications. Others say 200, and I will respond to them. The ones who say 500 don't respond, okay? That tells me something about them, that they're just estimating and they feel like they've done a ton. And I think they're embarrassed when I ask them, have you really filled out 500 applications? So the others who fill out 200, usually they'll say 200, 150, but it's still a huge number. And I'll ask, did you really fill out 200 applications? And they'll respond, yes. And I said, did you track them? And most of them say yes, they tracked them. But then when I press in and say, what happened to all of these? Did you get ghosted? Did you get no response at all? What was the result of these 200 job applications in tech? And by the way, a lot of times these are cybersecurity, front-end development, full stack development. Very rarely is it something like a CEO or manager in a tech job. And so I'll say, did you track them? And they say, yes. And the thing is, if you're tracking these and so I'll pause for a second. If you're tracking these and you can't give numbers on the numbers of responses and the numbers of ghosts and the numbers of screening, first interview, second interview, whiteboard, technical, group interviews, if you can't give numbers on that, then you're not really tracking them. So the 200 people I asked, the people who fill out 200 applications, these people say they track. Most of them do. And I say, did you get any responses? And their response is then, their response is then, yeah, I didn't get any responses. That's what they'd say. So out of 200, no responses, but I've been tracking them. And I say, I will reply back and some will respond, and some won't, because I think people start feeling guilty. They realize that they really haven't been tracking, but they said they did. So there's a little bit of shame involved when I'm pressing back, okay? And these are surveys where hey, let me help you. And then maybe that's how I helped them. I shared data with them that they needed. I asked them about data they needed to have and they didn't track them. Sponsored by Fiji Water. Just kidding. I wish. So you have to track them. Now, tracking your resumes. And, okay, let me go back. A little scatterbrained here, but let me go back to the people who have 200 surveys. 200 applications. So, most will say, yes, we tracked them. And then some will say, I got no responses. And the people who say they got no responses, when I press back and say, are you sure you got no responses? Some of them will say, actually, I did get responses. And the responses were mostly like, we feel you're not qualified. Not qualified. We think we've moved on to other candidates. Those are the responses. And the thing is, when they tell me that on these surveys, and then I push back and ask them, did you get responses? The thing is, when they say no responses, then I press back and say, did you get any responses? Are you sure you didn't get anything? And then they say, well, we've moved on to other candidates. What's the problem there? I mean, it's obvious to me. Maybe it's not obvious to them or to you. Maybe it's obvious to you. When you hire a plumber, I had to hire a plumber yesterday. A leaking pipe in the basement ceiling. I'd show you it, but I don't know. It's not worth it. You can trust me, it's bad. I hired a plumber. All right? Great plumber, excellent plumber. We've had him over before, had the company over before. Let's just say that I hired the wrong plumber, okay? But I didn't know it. And the plumber comes over, and the plumber says, "Whoa, look at that pipe up there. Look up there at that." "Yeah, I think I can handle that." I said, "What do you mean you think you can?" "Well, I've trained for that." I'll say, okay, you trained for that. I believe you. Where'd you train? Okay, here's your school. By the way, these are conversations that we should never get into with plumbers. What do you know right now about that plumber? The plumber is the wrong plumber, okay? So you trust them, but also you trust that they're telling the truth, but also you want to be so confident about their confidence. Confidence is something that you can ooze confidence, and you can be proud, but you can ooze confidence in such a way that it's contagious. So I would not be confident in that plumber, and I would fully be okay with having the plumber give an estimate, but not working on that. So back to filling out job applications. You filled out 200 and you got some responses. We feel like other candidates are more qualified, and yet you keep filling out job applications with the same resumes. And by the way, when I ask how many applications have you done, I'm expecting people to use the same resume, and if not, then they have to have different numbers for each resume, and nobody's told me that. So, and they may be using different resumes. But when you have one resume and it has these qualifications in the resume, and you have tried 200 times, and you keep getting back nothing, or we've moved on to more qualified candidates, you're the plumber. You're the plumber that is trying to prove yourself, but nobody believes you. And good for them. Good for them. You look in your life and find out how you eat food, where you shop, where you go out to eat, where you get your gas, what kind of water you drink. I have lots of stories about Fiji water. Just put a comment below and I'll tell you why I love Fiji water. Or Bula water. Yeah. So why do you make decisions that you do? Do you really show up to a restaurant before looking at Yelp or hearing about it from friends, or having gone there so many times that you trust it and you have confidence in it? That's probably a reason you don't go anywhere else if you always go to the same restaurants, is because you don't want the experience of having to try someone new and risking a bad experience and throwing away your money. But then you go and fill out, not you, maybe you. I've done it before. You go and fill out applications like everybody's supposed to trust you to the new restaurant. And then you don't know why people aren't walking in. Okay, so something to think about there. I hope you're thinking about this and saying, wow, I need to do something on my resume that proves that other people have trusted me. What could that be? That's gaining experience, but I don't have experience. Well, what can I do? Well, you can get experience, but it doesn't have to be a full-time job, and it doesn't even have to be a contract. It can be a project for other people. So if you stayed till the end here and you just skipped to the end and you just heard me say that, go watch the rest, because there's no Band-Aids for getting into tech. Don't just apply the last thing I told you. without listening to why. Because you're going to come into a situation where you'll get stuck again and you get frustrated. And it's something to do with either your performance or your presentation or your persistence. And those are the three areas that I work on with my clients. That the P3 triangle, it's a frustration, fuels. We have to use our frustration and fuel our search for a job. We can't just get frustrated and sit around and wonder why the 200, or then lie to people about 500. If you really filled out 500, you are an amazing person. You should probably do that for your job. If you're not getting a job yet, just fill out applications for people. Or don't, because it's not having results. All right? So take it from Uncle Brooks here. Or Mr. B, whatever you want to call me. The world isn't stupid. Okay? And they're not going to play the fool. And so you need to do some deep thinking about why you want to get into tech and what you think it's going to take. And the conclusion here is look around you and see how you make your own decisions and make those decisions. Help people make those decisions about you. Okay? If you want to hear more about how I do that, you can just click the link down in this video, down there. I think it's down there. And I'll have the description, in the description, a link. All right, I have to get back to programming. I'll see you next time. Thanks for subscribing and liking. I really appreciate it. It shows me if this is the right content for you or not. I'll change it if it's not. I'm not going to do 200 videos and expect you to like this and then wonder why more people aren't following. I'm going to make sure it's what you want. We'll see you next time.